What's up, everybody? This is DMac Wake here today to talk to you a little bit on Stay Schemin. Yes, I finally picked out a name. It only took one show to figure it out. I really like this name, by the way, to suggest to us. So thank you for the person that was able to give this to us. And look, we got a little bit of graphic here. You'll see it on the thumbnail as well. We got some interesting things around it. Look, Stay Schemin, man. You know, I'm here to break down the film for you guys. For those who don't know, you find me at Twitter, DMac Wake 316, where I do host Red Friday Spaces. And of course, here at part of Kingdom Cast, our weekly podcast, every single Thursday night at 9 p.m. Central. And we do have a post-game show either the night of the game, or if it's a late game, we'll have it the next day as well. Look, here today to talk a little bit about everybody's favorite wide receiver room. Everybody has a favorite within this room, a person that they love, a person that they hate, a person that they love to talk about. And so here we're going to go over exactly a few of these names that I really want to highlight. As we've gone through preseason, we've seen a little bit more on tape from these guys, and there are going to be some new faces as well. And one guy that really introduced himself in a big way, Chiefs Kingdom, when it mattered most. So, expecting 7 wide receivers to be on this team, I wanted to obviously just start out with 3, and I'm not going to go in depth for as far as tape is concerned today. First one, MVS, the veteran in this room, guy that we brought over from the Green Bay Packers at the start of last season. This is a guy that played very well for us as far as stretching the field, deep threat, obvious speed, long, lanky guy, was able to catch the ball. Not a ball winner as far as contested catches, but it was able to make a few nice grabs. And look, came up big time when we needed him most in the AFC Championship game, when Mahomes had to rely on him to do a lot more than we necessarily expected him to when we first brought him over. And so as a result, MVS, I think, is going to still stay in that role. I think he's still going to be able to be a deep threat. And I think that Mahomes and him will combine to have his career high in yards this year, because they'll hit on a few more of those bombs in which they had some issues, especially earlier on in the season as far as chemistry, making sure they had that deep connection. And so I expect a lot from MVS as well in this wide receiver room. Next guy up, Justin Watson. Some people don't necessarily love to see that he's going to be on this team, but I promise you he is. He's looked at right now as a 3 or 4 fourth wide receiver on this team, depending on Kadarius Toney's health. But he is a key factor as far as the wide receiver rotation is currently concerned. And Andy Reid and obviously Matt Nagy trust him to be in the spots that he needs to be. He's shown the ability to catch a few in breakers for intermediate chunks, and we've seen that be effective, especially in the Super Bowl. We saw it as well. He's simply a guy that comes in, does his job, doesn't do much more than that. That's exactly what you need. He can also give you some speed down the field, and we've seen that as well. So Justin Watson is going to have a role on this team. How big of a role will be determined by how some of these new faces come on the scene, to say the least. Last guy, the wild card, Kadarius Toney, a guy that we saw immense talent from, the ability to create explosive plays, whether it's going down the field and high pointing the football out of the air, especially over defenders, or simply taking some underneath stuff and creating yards off of those plays, as well as some gadget plays we saw him use them in. He was using a variety of ways because he is a special talent, especially when he gets the ball in his hands. And it looked like during the AFC Championship game, he was going to be favored, unfortunately, before he left with an injury. But we saw still in the Super Bowl, he's able to make an impact with his touchdown, and especially that massive punt return. So whenever he gets back on the field, if it's sooner rather than later, that's great. It adds a dynamic to this offense. It's a little bit later. It's also okay. Hopefully he can get back right, healthy for the stretch run, and that's what we'll be looking for him. So let's go ahead and get into the 4 wide receivers that I want to highlight today that will make up the rest of this wide receiver room for Kansas City in 2023. Okay, so now that we've got a little bit of an intro, I want to show you guys a little bit of Chiefs classics from a few years ago. Now this one is simply from last year, and the reason why I want to do this is because each one of these guys that I'm about to talk about have a specific role in this offense. And Andy Reid is exceptional in the way in which he schemes up talent to be the best possible, use that he can. And so each one of these guys that I'm going to show to you have their role within this team to excel at a high level. And it's a reason why Andy Reid has targeted these guys, and Brett Veach as well, specifically throughout the front office, so that they can come in and play these roles specifically within the Andy Reid offense and how he wants to use them. So here, obviously, we have a great Mecole Hardman little highlight film from specifically the San Francisco 49ers game. In this game, Mecole Hardman had a great game, no doubt about it, and it should be credit for him. he was able to score multiple touchdowns, as you see here, on handoffs, jet sweeps, pop passes, and that's the way that he was able to excel. Miko Hardman had an ability to accelerate, decelerate, find holes in the defense, still get into the end zone ultimately. That's a credit to his own talents as well. And so what's really standing out here is specifically the ability to find those holes as he was able to get through it. And so I want to stop it here and bring up a guy that we've seen in preseason now. Come in, play, do some similar things. I know that says 17, but that's not the same person. That's Richie James. I understand why it'd be confusing. That is Richie James, I promise you. Richie James has come into this team as a veteran from the Giants and now has a chance to have a similar impact as far as being able to do some of those gadget things. We've seen his ability to have the stop and start, the deceleration, the acceleration, the ability to take his time, find his role, and be able to work his way through certain aspects of the defense as blockers come in. And there was a flag on this play CH decided to hold, and that's okay. These things happen. It's fine, I promise. But hopefully that doesn't happen in the regular season. But Richie James here, you see the ability to get around. And look, there's a reason why he's going to be the kick returner, the main returner for punt returns as well for this team. It's because he has the ability to set up blockers and make his way through the defense. And so he can come in as a veteran. He can also do a few other things, but specifically from day one, he could do those type of gadget roles that Miko Hardman in his role has currently vacated. As I said, though, that wasn't the only part of the game that Richie James is going to be coming into as far as the role is concerned. We see here, all the way back from Miko Hardman's rookie year, he still had the ability to get down the field because of his explosive speed and the way that he was operating within the offense. And so that should be kept in mind is that Richie James is not going to simply be limited to those gadget roles. He can come in, get down the field a little bit. Get it. Blaine Gabbert here, a good blitz pickup from Eric Prince. Down the field, Richie James is able to go on the four verticals, essentially, with Rashee Rice in the slot. Get down the field, catch the ball effectively, and make a big play happen. Richie James has that ability to get down the field occasionally, and that will be something that is certainly used to take advantage of it as well. And ultimately, Richie James, again, going into that vacated role, he has a chance to really step in, push Justin Watson early on because of his familiarity with this offense coming over from the Giants, working under Mike Kafka as well, the offensive coordinator over there, who, of course, came over from Kansas City. If he can hit the ground running, he can show that he is a veteran presence that Mahomes can lean on. There is a possibility for a bigger role with him in this offense. As of right now, though, I do expect him to come in, be a rotational guy that can be used effectively, whether it's in the gadget role or to create some explosives down the field, and in multiple ways in which Andy Reid decides to deploy him to make sure that this offense stays on schedule, especially earlier in the year, so that these young wide receivers don't have to have too much put on their plate for a guy that at least has proven himself a little bit more in the league. Next guy coming up, a little bit of excitement for everybody's, most talented favorite big wide receiver. All right, so to start out here, we're going to begin with a little bit of flashback, again, back to the 2022 season for the Chiefs. And this is going to be a little bit of indicative of the overall role that I think that everybody's favorite big wide receiver can step into from day one. For those that may not remember this play, here we have Juju going in motion. Jody Fortson isolated at the bottom of your screen. And fade route gets broken up. Now, the reason why, it was a little bit of a miscommunication on what exactly the route was supposed to be and the way that Jody Fortson was supposed to approach the route as well. And you'll see here, there's a bit of an issue as far as understanding to getting into the cornerback's chest to open up that window for Mahomes to throw that pass. And look, young guy for Jody Fortson. Obviously, we know he has a limited experience. Unfortunately, he's not going to get any more of that experience as he is on season-ending IR with his injury that he sustained during training camp. But the reality of the situation is he's a young guy that was coming in. He was able to get a bigger role, and we saw over the course of the season he was able to make a more of an impact when he was able to be out there and contributed to the best heavy personnel, multiple tight end sets, whether it was 12 or 13, in the league as far as offensive efficiency is concerned. That was there in Kansas City. And he had a role in that as far as Jody Fortson is concerned. Now, the big problem is, there's a bit of a learning curve for him. As a result, it took a second to catch on. Speaking of learning curves down in the red zone, Justin Ross. Now, look, everybody looked at this play and were like, oh, wait, what are you talking about? Justin Ross didn't do anything wrong here. He was wide open in the end zone. The throw went out of bounds. When Justin Ross comes out of this break, the way that Gabbert pumps, he expects him to turn his head to the outside, and that's where Gabbert ends up putting the ball. Unfortunately, Ross, in this case, turned to the inside after making the cornerback just absolutely lose track of him. And from that perspective, that miscommunication ended up resulting in an incomplete pass. And that's not a bad thing for Justin Ross. That is simply a learning moment for him to get better as a wide receiver. It's not the end of the world, I promise. And the good news is, when he gets that down, he is a spectacular talent. We saw evidence of this also in 2021 when Jody Fortson was still trying to find his way onto the team and also not established as well as he was last year. Still had his ability in the red zone to have a role on this team because of his ability to go get the ball when Mahomes placed it in the right place. Right here, off the fake play action, he's able to go up, high point the ball, back of the end zone, easy touchdown. Look, that's pitch and catch. That's something that can always be there if you have the wide receiver / tight end that can go up and get the ball when it's needed. Like I said, we were able to get a taste of that with Justin Ross in the preseason. Over here, kind of on the deeper slant, able to shield off the safety coming down, catch the ball, easy touchdown. And when you have a guy with his talent, with his speed, with his fluid movement at that size, he has the ability to really change the face of your red zone offense and give you a different look from things that you may not have seen in the past. And look, Justin Ross is a guy that is immensely talented, a guy that should have gone in the first round had he stayed healthy throughout the entirety of his college career. We understand that he did not. But now that he's been able to stay healthy throughout the entirety of camp, into these first 2 preseason games in which he's gotten preseason snaps as well, I'm extremely excited to see what he can bring to the table. Specifically, I think, with Jody Fortson's injury, going into a role where he is in the red zone, specifically as a target, to use that contested catch ability and big frame from day one. The possibilities as far as what he can bring to the table between the 20s and beyond are endless. Like I said, because of his talent, we saw a little bit of his ability on his slant return route on the outside as well. We've seen him throw some digs in there where he shook off tacklers and still was able to get yards after the catch. His talent is off the charts. He just has to stay healthy, continue to learn the offense. The fact that he's been in this playbook for a year is also a good leg up for him to start in. I'm very interested to see how much playing time he can earn from day one in the red zone, but also throughout the season as he tries to wrestle away snaps from other guys as well. I want to see him rotate in, and I want to see him get as many targets from Patrick Mahomes as possible, because I know those two can be special when they end up linking up. Third guy on the list, a draft pick that I defended at the time, and some people are now starting to warm up to. All right, now we get to go back down memory lane a little bit here with one Mr. Sammy Watkins, a big free agent acquisition here in Kansas City, a guy that was brought in to beef up this wide receiver core and did it effectively when he was on the field. Get to show a little bit of old Sammy, creating yards after the catch, shaking off defenders and using that speed that he had to burn. Oh, Sammy Watkins, Mr. 14. Super Bowl Super Bowl 54 legend as far as I'm concerned. But look, some guy we could do some similar things with over there, Mr. Rashee Rice from SMU, the second round rookie that was taken by the Kansas City Chiefs, a guy that was targeted here in Kansas City, went out, played with Mahomes in Texas during the spring leading up to the draft, and obviously caught his eye as they went out and drafted him in the second round for these specific purposes, these purposes of his ability to go after the catch, create yards with his speed, with his ability to make defenders miss, shake them off, and be able to still get down the field. We'll work on the ball security a little bit. But look, the talent is evident. His explosion is there, to say the least. And I've been very excited to see what he's brought to the table here as preseason has gone on. And it should be understood, this is something we saw from Rashee Rice all the way back on his 2021 tape at SMU. And it's important to say the 2021 tape from this specific perspective. Rashee Rice was a guy that came in the 2022 season and was playing through injury in college. And throughout that tape, you could see there was a little bit of a lack of explosion, a little bit lack of that yards after the catch ability. But it pops on the 2021 tape, and now we're seeing it in preseason where he is beyond that lower body injury that he did have He looks like he's back to being that explosive wide receiver that is 6 foot, around 200 pounds, can shake off defenders, and has the explosion to take it to the house, even when given just basic slant patterns as well. And look, there's not just slant patterns and yards after catch to his game. That kid can do a lot of different things as well. Never mind, that's still a Mr. Sammy Watkins. And so we'll flash it all the way back once again to see Sammy Watkins here. Come across the formation, clear out route, take the ball down the sideline, the ability to accelerate after the catch and take it all the way to the end zone. Mahomes puts it in the breadbasket. Sammy Watkins gave you that down the field ability in addition to the yards after the catch, being able to create something. And we'll see a little bit more of Sammy Watkins creating yards after the catch here on the sprint out. Outside, beat the guy, make him miss, and still get down the field effectively, and then end up going out of bounds. Look, Sammy Watkins was a guy that was in this offense and really gave them multiple avenues to attack defenses. And it's something that, this offense hasn't necessarily been able to replicate since he's moved on. Obviously, injuries kind of slowed him down towards the end of his career. But certainly, after he moved on from Kansas City, we haven't had a wide receiver that really has that specific set of skills that brings that explosiveness, that size, that speed, and that ability to catch the ball as well, and have good releases. And look, now we can go on over to the draft pick once again, Rashee Rice. We saw it during the preseason game versus Arizona. Sky Moore going to run a clear out route. Rashee Rice takes the corner towards the sideline. Isaiah Simmons, who's now a New York Giant, not able to catch up with him because he's not that good at coverage. But look, Rashee Rice being able to take advantage of the space that Sky Moore creates for him, run the route effectively, get to his landmark. Bouchel puts it on the money, gets down the sideline, creates yards after the catch. And we can go on to the second play here. Rashee Rice, a little dig, not necessarily out, shakes off the defender, is able to still get that first down because he has that explosive ability. And look, that's exactly what Rashee Rice can bring to the table for a team. He has the ability to catch balls in the short areas of the field, still make some defenders miss, create yards after the catch because of the explosion and his size and his strength. And then also because of his ability to release off the line effectively, there are still plays open to him down the field. And we'll take it back to the 2021 tape to give an example of Rashee Rice in college creating that yards down the field. Shakes him off the line, takes the hit, still holds on to the ball. Obviously, every single rep did not like that play, to say the least. But look, he was able to get down the field, take advantage of the hole in the zone, put on the money, catches the ball, secures it, takes the hit. And look, when you have the ability to be athletic and threaten teams short, eventually they're going to open up some holes for you down the field. And Mahomes is just waiting to take advantage of any signs of grass down the field that he can use to create explosive plays with throws in the bucket. And look, we've seen that be very effective on the grandest stage for the Kansas City Chiefs. Mr. Sammy Watkins himself in the Super Bowl shakes off Richard Sherman off the line, catches the ball down the field, creates a huge explosive play on the drive in which the Chiefs would take the lead for good in Super Bowl 54 against the San Francisco 49ers. And again, this is all simply to service the idea of these wide receivers, young wide receivers specifically, coming into this offense, playing specific roles in which Andy Reid understands their talents, understands how to put them in the right places to succeed, everything being built off Kelsey in the passing game, and specifically service so that Patrick Mahomes can be at his best and distribute the ball effectively to these guys. And look, it's a diversification of the offense. There's a reason why all of these wide receivers are a little bit different, have a little bit different skill sets, because they each bring the talent necessary to make this offense still be high octane. And I think it's going to work very well. Now, of course, I've talked about it here on Kingdom Cast a few times. The guy that I'm most bullish on, and I'm going to make this comparison, and people may not like it, may understand it, but it's going to make sense when I specifically put it all together. Let's talk about Mr. Sky Moore. So I wanted to start off with this quote. Obviously here, this is Patrick Mahomes, according to Peter King, talking a little bit about Sky Moore and what they've been working on since the season has ended. So this spring, Moore was tied to the hip, to his hip in Texas workouts. I had all the guys down there in Texas. Mahomes says for over a month and a half, Sky was at every single workout. I mean, every single one. Wanting to get extra work after every single practice. He has the drive to be great. And look, Sky Moore should be doing exactly this. There's also the story that he was sitting behind Patrick Mahomes in every single meeting. There's a reason behind that. He knows that being attached to the hip, for lack of a better term, of Mahomes will lead to his success on the field from this standpoint. If he is able to understand what Mahomes wants out of him on every single play, he can be exactly where Mahomes needs him on time and on target. We saw last year there were times in which Sky Moore ran difficult routes that were wrong, and they resulted in interceptions at the end of the Bills game, most notably, also at the start of the Niners game. He was not where he needed to be. But we saw later on in the years, notably the Chargers game in LA, he was able to have a big impact because he understood where he needed to be. And so these offseason workouts, the extra time that he spent with Patrick Mahomes, should put him in a good position to do just that. And look, this is reminiscent to me of a guy who also was the safety blanket for a Super Bowl winning quarterback. And look, I'm going to hurt you guys when I show these highlights, but it's the truth. I had to watch him live, so you guys are going to have to watch him with me as I talk through this. Julian Edelman, a guy that went and lived with Tom Brady for a period of time simply because he knew that that was the best way for his career to take off. Julian Edelman, a guy that worked hard, developed himself into a wide receiver that Tom Brady could trust when it mattered most, especially on money downs when he needed to get the job done. You see the 2nd and 7, 2nd and 6, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3. This is throughout the Super Bowl here in Atlanta versus the Rams. Every single time that Tom Brady needed to move the chains, he was out looking at Gronk, he was looking at Julian Edelman. And Julian Edelman worked his way into that because he wasn't the physical specimen that Gronk is, or he wasn't the all-time tight end that Travis Kelce is. This is exactly what Sky Moore is going to have to do. He is going to have to work his way into having that level of trust with Patrick Mahomes. And look, it's not like it's uncommon. Everything that Julian Edelman is doing in these clips, that's exactly what Sky Moore brings to the table. You want a little slant return? Yeah, he brings that to the table. You want a sit-down route in the middle of the field where I can go and get you shoot a few extra yards and move the chains? Easy. And again, Sky Moore, not somebody that has immense talent, but he does have specific set of skills. His ability to catch the ball, has extremely strong hands, has some lower body strength so he can shake off tacklers after the catch as well. And he has the ability to get in and out of cuts very quickly. That is all of the makings of a safety blanket, quick passing game type of target that you need in your offense. And specifically, we saw last year, Juju Smith-Schuster was really able to take over this role, have almost 900 yards, and he added some more of the down the field stuff as well. And Sky Moore does have that capability, but he made his bread and butter being able to be available when it was needed for Patrick Mahomes. Look, Sky Moore right here, we haven't seen a lot of him in preseason, and that's not a bad thing. Other people be like, oh, well, maybe they don't necessarily trust it. No, that's by design. We haven't seen a lot of MVS either. That's because those two guys are the starting wide receivers while Kadarius Toney is out. Sky Moore has the ability to be that move the chains guy. And we see right here, 3rd and 3, stack formation out here, working off of Kelce, just going to sit down. 3rd and 3, I'll get you 6 yards and we'll be moving the chains. And that's exactly what he can bring to the table and understanding from Patrick Mahomes that he can rely on. And that's all you need out of Sky Moore, a guy that when you need him to move the chains, he gets you exact yardage, and he can be used effectively off of that. And obviously, the Julian Edelman connection, that is something with Tom Brady. We saw those two guys can, combine for a multitude of playoff yards, a multitude of playoff touchdowns. But Sky Moore has the runway here. If he can earn Patrick Mahomes' trust, which sounds like he has, if he can earn Andy Reid's trust, which it sounds like he has, he can have a very good season. I've made the bold prediction before that I think that he could have a 1,000-yard season. That is something that I think is fully on the table for Sky Moore. And look, like I said, Juju Smith-Schuster last year had a similar role and was able to get close to 1,000 yards. I think he would have got 1,000 yards had he stayed healthy. And look, we saw even in the moments that mattered the most, Juju was still a guy that Patrick Mahomes was able to rely on to get the job done. And I think that's important to keep in mind as well. So speaking of Juju's role last year, you see evidence of it right here. Little slant return, 3rd and 4. I'll go ahead and get you some yards after the catch, make myself available, and go ahead and get that first down. 4th and 4, slant return. Hey, Juju, I need 5 yards. Shake off that guy, be strong through, and be able to move the chains. And look, this is something that carried all the way into the playoffs because they needed it still. Patrick Mahomes here in division round versus Jags. Pump fakes, finds his zone, finds through the zone into Juju Smith-Schuster with one of his patented sidearms. And look, Patrick Mahomes is a guy that is a special talent. Travis Kelce is a person that is a Hall of Fame tight end that you run your passing offense through. The diversification of these wide receivers and their different talents stepping into this team is going to be key for this offense to continue to operate at a high level. And just in a little bit of preseason taste, we've seen the ability for these guys to fill in roles of other wide receivers that come through Kansas City in the Mahomes era and play it at an extremely high level. And I appreciate you guys. Please be on the lookout for our podcast. It'll be coming out later on tonight. We'll be live 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. We'll be back with the crew talking about looking forward to the third preseason game, some of the final roster battles to watch as we approach cutdown day coming up on the 29th. And please, once again, make sure you guys tap in. You'll see me on Friday, DMac Wake 316, hosting Red Friday Spaces over there on Twitter. Appreciate you